All right, so we're really pumped to have our newest partner here on Believe in Badgers, and that is Underdog Fantasy. They have a unique approach to fantasy sports. It's a simple pick'em style format. You can select players you believe will either outperform or underperform their expectations in the game without the complexities of traditional DFS. Super user friendly, growing community. It is the best place to play your pick'ems. Remember to sign up using the link in our description and use our promo code BADGERS to get a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. This week, I'm focused on the NFC title game. As you guys know, I'm a massive Bills fan. Bills Mafia stand up, and I have no interest in picking anything to do with my Bills. So I'm focused in on Commanders versus Eagles. I'm going to start with the visiting team. Two guys I think are going to go higher than their projections. Receiver Terry McLaurin has been a stud all year for Washington. I think he continues to be Jaden Daniels' top target. Give me higher than 63.5 receiving yards for the former Buckeye. At running back, Austin Eckler has completely come alive this postseason, both running and catching the ball out of the backfield. He continues to be a factor. I'll take higher than 47.5 combined yards rushing and receiving for him. On the other side of the ball, I like Jalen Hurts to score again with his legs, whether it's a long run like he did against the Rams or the tush push, he's going to get in the end zone. Give me higher than 0.5 combined rushing and receiving touchdowns. Finally, Saquon Barkley has been the best back in the league all season. Commanders, not exactly the strongest defense in the land. Give me Saquon higher than 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns combined. So no matter what you think is going to happen in this game or any game, head on over to Underdog Fantasy using the link in our description and our promo code BADGERS to get a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash.
Bernstein again, big opening, pass 5, pass 10, Burlow's a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards out the territory.
Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by BetOnline.ag and Oakbridge Wealth Management. I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Dude, I'm so excited. Our guest is like one of my favorite people, soft-spoken, but also one of the biggest dudes I think I've ever met in my entire life, and was nice to me for some odd reason. So, hey, like this.
Hey, what do you want? 245-pound fullback in the backfield? You got to be nice to him, That's just another old lineman back there,
I appreciate that. My first touchdown's right off of your butt, actually.
Absolutely. So, what game was that? Was that
Fresno State?
Fresno State. That's right. Did we run 37 gut or something like that?
I think it was like 30 zone, whatever we called it. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Oh man, the good old days. Bringing back some good memories. But yes, I couldn't be more happy to have Ben Johnson. I mean, my welcome to Wisconsin moment is seeing this dude just standing around like. And no one gets it because if you're from Wisconsin, you listen. There are some people who are 6'6", but there are no Ben Johnsons who are 6'6", 330, and like don't look huge. It's scary coming from New York as the biggest kid on your team. So Matt Perkins, keep going. I had to share that because I just love it.
Well, like Bernie said, we have former Badgers offensive tackle Ben Johnson here with us today, which we are very, very excited about. I have a bunch of questions, but we will get into those in just a minute. Before we do, want to remind everyone tuning in that we are presented by BetOnline.ag, who continue to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selections of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, you name it, they've got it over at BetOnline. They are the number one source for betting in the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers, hat tricks, they've got you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. And of course, we continue to be proudly presented by our main man, Chris Anicetti, and his team over at Oakbridge Wealth Management, who are now NFLPA partners. If you are a pro, future pro, or current NCAA athlete with NIL deals, get in touch with Chris and his team at Oakbridge. They specialize in one thing: wealth management for professional athletes. They understand all the pressures they face on a day-to-day basis. Chris and his team will set you up with a bespoke plan to make your money work for you off the field so you can do what you best. perform on the field. Get in touch with Chris on Instagram at OakBridgeWM_Anicete. That's OakBridgeWM_ANICETE, or head on over to their website, OakBridgeWealthMGMT.com. Chris Anicete, Oak Ridge Wealth Management. Get your money right.
Matt Perkins, I want to say that you and I are getting way too close in this mental realm, because this was my first question for Ben Johnson as well,
Ben,
was NIL, Ben, you would have made a fortune, I think, being this humongous person. You don't think you're a character. You think you're a very mild-mannered human, which you are. But when you become friends with you, you open up and you are a very interesting human being. I think you would have had tons and tons of deals.
I can get personable, I choose not to. I like to keep my inner circle, and you're in that inner circle, so that's why you get the interview today, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before, but I was going to say you would have been the perfect shoebox NIL deal.
I had 50 shirts, all different colors, and I served my 3-game suspension, so I wore those things proudly. It was a BS deal, and obviously, you talk about the NIL right now. That would have been a drop in the bucket, stupid thing. So, I mean, for them to get a 3-game suspension on me and make me pay back $500 and do 24 hours of community service, I mean, it was stupid.
Matt, I know I shared this before, but to everyone listening, I literally showed up from New York. I watched the entire season of 2000 with all the different, the suspensions were everywhere. So I'm coming in thinking, man, we're not going to mention the shoebox. It's like a curse word. You're never going to see anything. Or it's like, they took away the creatine machines. Ben, do you remember the machines they used to have that? They took everything away. And I walk in, and all of a sudden, like the first day, I'm like, oh man, who's that big guy? He's wearing a orange shoebox t-shirt, like hunting orange.
Hunting bright orange.
Hunting bright orange. And then the next day, it was like green with a shoebox. And then the next day it was some other color. And I'm like, hold on, this is too funny, because the coaches could all see it. Like, you were at the meetings in these shirts. Everyone could see it. I just remember that I couldn't stop laughing, because everyone was so scared to even say Black Earth or shoebox. And yet, Ben Johnson was just walking around with the shirt on, basically blasting it off.
When you're a college student and you didn't have NIL deals, and I came up. My dad died when I was 16 years old, so I was on a single income with my mom at home. I was the youngest of five kids, so we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. So whatever was free, that's what I put on. We got a bunch of free, call them shirts from the shoebox. Ended up paying back for them, but that's what I wore.
Well, let's talk about young. Matt Berg, do you have a question?
I have a question about young Ben, because
young Ben,
you're from Door County, but Door County is not exactly known as a football hotbed within the state of Wisconsin.
Well, it was back when I was playing. So
I mean, I'm thinking like Jim Flanagan, maybe, but besides that, I don't know who else would have inspired you to get on the football field.
Yeah, so Jim Flanagan was the start of it all. He went to Notre Dame and then got drafted by the Bears in the 4th round. 3rd, 4th round, whatever he was. But he played 10 years in the NFL. He was the start of it all. Then his brother, Brian Flanagan, went to Wisconsin, was a linebacker at Wisconsin. We had walk-on guys from my high school, Joe Ennis, Bob Adamoff, who was the team captain of the Rose Bowl team in 99 Rose Bowl that was. And then in our class, my cousin Al. And then we had people after me, Nick Koshart, who was a walk-on nose guard, ended up earning a scholarship. And then just north of us, we had Sturgeon Bay High School. So back to grade Casey Rabach, who played in the NFL for 12 years with the Baltimore Ravens and the Redskins, the Commanders now. There was Nick Greisen, who played 8-10 years in the NFL as a linebacker. Jason Schick, who was a walk-on guy. Matt Gaida, who was a walk-on guy. Forgive me if I'm forgetting anybody.
Well, so so basically what you're saying is that I stand completely corrected. I'm completely out of my mind.
For a pure small period of time, we had quite a few players that were playing Division I and NFL.
But was there like a little Ben Johnson? Like, how does is there a little Ben Johnson, one? And two, how do you start playing football?
So Little, no. I was born 10 pounds, 8 ounces, so I was never little. But actually, I was the second biggest in my class growing up, only behind my cousin Al. I passed him up about freshman year, I believe, in high school. And no, so never little. But football was always in my life. Grew up, half an hour north of Green Bay. I was a huge Packer fan growing up. And again, just watching guys like Jim Flanagan and his brother Brian and Bob and all those guys come through the Southern Door High School football program. That was always a mainstay in my mind, and I always wanted to make myself better and get to that level.
So as you're competing in high school, when did it become something in your mind? You're like, wow, I could actually go do this on the next level. And then is it from that area? Is Wisconsin the only, this is 30 years ago now, 25, 20. Is Wisconsin really the only place that people want to go?
It used to be the only place. So when I first started getting recruited, I'd start getting letters in the mail, and it was in the back of your mind, are you good enough to make it? Obviously, yeah. Am I good enough? We'll see. And then I just proved myself. So I went to football camps and performed at football camps. And that's where I got my first offer, was from Wisconsin. So junior year at their junior day, they brought me and my cousin Alan and said, hey, we want to offer you scholarships to Wisconsin. And it was all because we attended summer camps and proved ourselves at football camps. So just went from there. So then I wanted to see, could I get scholarships anywhere else? And went down to Iowa and went to camp there, and they offered me a scholarship down there at their camp. Went to Notre Dame and got offered a scholarship right there at their camp. So they, it was one of those things that I just had to go prove myself. And, I was getting, my head coach in high school did put my name out there, put my height, my weight, my approximate times, but they just wanted to see me in person and see how well I moved as a big man. And it was just, it's history from there.
It's much different from today's day and age. We just send film, and
right.
You literally had to physically go places. Same with me, and compete with no pads on, or maybe a helmet if that's what the camp, and go and do 40-yard dashes and literally go one-on-one with people in the trenches. But Ben, so you had 3 scholarships, and Notre Dame was one of them?
Notre Dame was one of them. I had offers from other schools as well, Illinois, Indiana, could have basically gone anywhere. But those were the three schools I was looking at and wanting to go to school. They were close to home. And like I said, being from a single head household, wanted to stay home, close to home, so my mom could come to the games and come watch me.
And so I have to ask, did Al have the same Notre Dame, Iowa, Illinois, all the same places, or did you guys have a predetermined, we kind of want to go play together?
No, Al made his own decision. I made my own decision. Al was a huge Nebraska fan, actually, growing up, so he wanted to go that route, and then Wisconsin just was a better fit for him. Same thing, closer to home. As soon as he got offered on that junior day, I think he committed a month later or whatever it was. He wanted to go to Wisconsin. That was his top choice. For me, again, it was one of those things that, can I go and see other campuses, and I'm making sure I'm making the right decision at Wisconsin, and obviously I did.
So did you take other trips, other, what do they call them?
Visits?
Do you take official visits to other places?
No, I didn't. So the only official visit was Madison. So I did it on my own dime, was going to Notre Dame, Iowa, went to Minnesota, all on our own dime.
So what was your official visit like, though? Who was your host?
Josh Jakubowski was my host, and Josh was a good host. He showed me a good time, and obviously came to Wisconsin. So I actually was I think we got a 2-day that it was that you could get hosted, and I could only make it for one of the days. So I was there for the second day, and he showed me a good time. I was already committed, so there wasn't.
The committed guys are the best because you don't have to do much. You're
right, exactly.
And this is a day and age when you didn't decommit no matter what. So you're like, yo, do you want to go to the bar? No. All right, cool. What do you want to do? It didn't matter as a committed point. But I have to assume, Ben, you had a good time. You probably drank a ton of beers.
I don't want to indulge, but yes, we had Josh showed me a good time. The only unfortunate thing is my mom she's a big Catholic, loves going to church. So we had to go to church the next day at, I think it was 8:30 was mass. So here I come as a high school senior. And then, it was a bit of a hangover the next day at 8:30, JP showing up and, at picking me up and my mom up at, I think they had us at the concourse at the time, downtown Madison, and bringing us out to St. Maria Goretti over on the west side with, Monsignor Mike Perko out there.
That's so cool. Father Mike was that's cool.
He was just a father then. He wasn't quite a Monsignor, but he was out there, and Father Mike does his own recruiting spiel out there and make sure us Catholic boys get a good.
Listen, he's recruiting the Jews out of New York too. I loved Father Mike. I mean, every conversation I had with him was like the most positive conversation. Like, always cared about people's families,
right?
And some people will be like, oh, Jewish guy, I have nothing to do with him. But he made it. He always, no matter who you were, it didn't matter what you believed in. He cared. I just think it's so cool that like you got to see him. I did one time outside of all the masses before games at the seminary, but we'll go to that in a second. Ben, you meet Coach Huber, right? What is your first experience with that guy?
Well, Coach Huber's going to give you who he is right away. He's a brash guy. He's a Philadelphia guy, and he's just a brash guy, and that's the way he's always going to be. So, as far as me meeting him and accepting him for who he is, that's what I did. I expected to be coached hard, and he did. There's no doubt about that.
All right, so you show up on campus. Is it in the summer? Is it in the fall?
Yeah, so I actually my senior year I graduated high school, and then went with one of my high school friends, and we went over to Germany for 10 days and had a good time in Germany. So when I came back from Germany, I went right to Madison doing summer conditioning. So showed up on campus, kind of out of shape. First practice, you get a rude awakening. So I think we were doing touchdowns at the time. We were doing 10 touchdowns, and I think I threw up about the sixth one, and it wasn't a good first outing. Let's say that.
And you obviously met JD that time. What was your thoughts about him?
Yeah, so JD actually is from Algoma, which is a small town just 20 minutes away from my hometown. So JD and I got along really well. His mom still lived up there and kept asking me about back in Door County. And so we got along real well. But she gave us a real eye-opening, he gave us a good time.
I think showing up in the summer is possibly, it was, I don't know what happens nowadays, but it was possibly like the worst first or second day experience like you could have as an athlete. Like, it really was a shell shock. No matter who you are, like, it was the hardest day to get through.
Absolutely. When you show up as a freshman and you go through those first workouts and you're like, do I want to keep doing this for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years? And it's just, eventually you get used to it, and just like everything else in life, and it just comes natural. You just go out there and work your hardest and go to the next thing.
The problem is the next thing becomes the seminary.
That
you think day one was hard, and then you show up at the seminary as a freshman. You don't know anything about this place other than you hear you have to bring a fan. Like, that's all I got. What was your experience like showing up to the seminary day one or freshman year?
So your first year, we didn't have any air conditioning there? No,
and I had a roommate.
Yeah, well, you're a freshman. Everybody gets a roommate. I can't remember what year they put air conditioning in, but the rooms never had air conditioning. But the lowercase, the lower part, the dining area, the meeting rooms, that all finally got air conditioned. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if that was my junior or senior year, but that first year was rotten. I mean, you're in a 90-degree room, and I think it was rooming. I can't even remember if it was Jowers or Al was my roommates, and you're just miserable. You're always hot. You're never hydrated. You go down to the meeting rooms. It's hot in the meeting rooms. You're getting yelled at by Huber, and it's terrible. You figure you're in a Catholic church, and here you're getting yelled at and mother effed, and how can it be this bad in a Catholic environment? What? That's the Wisconsin way,
Ben, you're a big guy, but when you stepped on campus, was there anyone that you saw first, like, holy crap, I can't believe this human is this large?
Yeah, Aaron Gibson. I mean, Aaron was 390 at the time, and 6'7", 390. Moved like a gazelle, and he was my first that was in person that I was in awe of.
Was there anyone who took you under their wing right when you first got there and was like, hey, this is how this stuff works?
Yeah, Chris McIntosh, he was the left tackle at the time, the 80 right now. Mac was good to me, kind of showed me the way how to be the best and work your hardest and be the best Badger you can be.
What was the best piece of advice he gave you?
I don't know if it was a piece of advice, but it was more showing me, leading by example. This is what you do. This is when you do it. This is how you do it. This is the Badger way. Example was the best way he did it.
So did you redshirt?
I did, yeah. So redshirted, and it was our 5 years total.
Got it. Because I always say my redshirt year was one of my favorites. Your responsibility is only to practice hard, and so like the mental of playing is not there.
Yeah.
However, you got to practice real hard and get basically your butt kicked the entire season. It's a game every Monday through Friday, and then Saturday is kind of like a warm up, and you just stand on the sides. Then, what was your experience like on the scout team?
Yeah, so I had Tom Burke on one side, and I had John Favre on the other. So Tom
goodness.
Burke, third round draft pick by the Cardinals. He had the sack record at Wisconsin for how long, and John Favre was a go hard guy, 110% of the time. So going against those guys only made me better every day. It was only 1 year. Thank goodness it was only 1 year.
So you go against those guys. You're in the meeting room with Chris McIntosh. The O-line at that time is one of the best O-lines to ever be there. How important was that to your career?
Like you said, watching and learning and making sure you're doing the same things and doing the right things. It's imperative to your career.
Any fun scout team moments that you can remember?
Good one. Not offhand. I guess there's one. We were playing. I think it was Ohio State, and everybody's jacked for Ohio State week. And they ran a tackle guard pull. So you're on scout team and running a tackle guard pull, which as a Badger, you never ran a tackle pull. And so I came around the corner, and Nick Grayson came down full speed right at me. We hit, and I was lights out. Don't remember it. After that, and that was before the concussion protocol. You run back to the huddle, you go to the next play. So I talked to Grayson after that, and he's like, dude, why are you going so hard? And I was like, why the hell are you going so hard? This is a scout team, man. But again, that's the Badger way. You go hard.
You go hard. It's funny you bring up Nick Grayson as a guy who I would say Nick took me under his wing in the bar scene. Yeah. Him and Herbs took me out one night with Kleber and was like, what'd you say?
45 for life, right?
45. Listen, I wasn't 45 at the time. I was 49, which is probably one of the most cursed numbers at Wisconsin for some reason.
Right, it is.
It is cursed. No one, they'll give it to somebody as a freshman, change it immediately.
Exactly.
But Bryson and Herbs took me to the Red Shed. There was nobody in there. And I'm sitting there with Kleber, like, I'm 18 years old. I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. I had a good fake ID, but, I'm in a whole new place. And they're going behind the bar and making their own drinks and then making us drinks. And I'm going, what? It's like looking at Ben Johnson wearing a Black Earth t-shirt, shoebox going like, what the hell is going on in this world?
Right.
And I'm like, Grayson, dude, what do you like on the bar here? And he's like, no. It's like, you play really well. You get perks. And I was like, well, hold the phone. I can walk back and get a beer from a bar if I want to. Like, this is the best thing. It like blew my mind.
I think it was certain bars. I don't think you can go to any bar and do that. But yeah, the Red Shed, we knew Joel there real well, and Jay at Wando's, and some of those bars, the KK, they appreciated us being a football player and us being there. So you got a couple perks being there. Drew and other people.
You got a couple perks.
Yeah, being the Hebrew Hammer, that people love that, and brought in a lot of other people. People want to talk.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I think you and I and a bunch of other people on our team had a very good time on the field and off the field, which I think has made our experience one of the best ever. But let's get back to you because I don't talk about the bar scene. I need a beer now. Ben, hey, I'm ready for it.
You got to come out to Wisconsin. Friday afternoon. It's a celebration. We celebrate here.
I know it's a celebration.
You've been here for 5 years.
We are at FAC time right now.
We can show up at Bull Feathers.
Bull Feathers at FAC.
All right, people.
Go ahead. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. So Ben. So you redshirted. Now it's time to step up and say, hey, I'm going to compete to play. What's your off season? What's that prep like for you? Is JD talking to you? Like, what's going on in your head saying, I want to be on that field?
Yeah, it was just the next step. So the progression. So you set yourself up. You're learning from a McIntosh. You're learning from an Eric Gibson, and it's like I said, it's the next progression. This is the step you need to make to become a starter, and this is how hard you need to work. So it's a whole nother step, whole nother level of what you need to accomplish and become. And I was slated to start at right tackle that year. Mark Tauscher had decided he wanted to transfer and go to another school. He had graduated, and Huber called him up and said, hey, you want to come back? And I guess Huber didn't know he had another year left. So called up Tauscher and said, hey, we got a spot here in the football team if you want to come back. So Tausch came back, and he ended up winning the starting spot at right tackle, which didn't do just, he had a 11-year NFL career. He was the right man for the job. And, but I was preparing myself all through training camp and stuff to become the starting right tackle. And, you just prepare your best.
So it's so different now where something like that could happen to somebody and say, I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Right.
What does it mean, Ben, to you to be a Badger and to also say, listen, I'm going to compete and eventually it is my time and I'm going to shine when that happens?
Yeah. For me to be a Badger was the same thing I've been telling you all along. You're going to be working hard. You're going to be a tough-nosed person. You're going to be physical athlete, and that's what I wanted to be. So that's why I became a Badger. That's the mentality I took throughout my career was we're going to be physical. We're going to you're going to want to quit by the end of the game, basically. And that's kind of the path I took my whole life.
Is that what you pride yourself on the most in your football career? Was it physical violence? Was it?
Yeah, so it was the physicality of it, driving people out of the hole, finishing at the end, just play after play after play. We kind of went to a spread offense later in our careers, and wasn't the biggest fan of it, but we could still be physical in that offense. We were still running the ball quite a bit out of that spread offense. We were just young at that offense, but bringing back the old I formation and the ace formation, and there's nothing like it. Running power and counter and zone, and there's nothing like it.
Ben, did you win 2 Rose Bowls?
We won 2. So that was 99 to 2000 Rose Bowls.
How cool to be part of like one of the most historic runs. As a Wisconsin person, are you saying Wisconsin my only thing? How could you ever take a breath and be like, wow, I was part of this team when they did something like almost unimaginable?
Yeah. Now you look back now and you see, what else has happened since then. Yeah, there was a 3-peat Rose Bowl team there, but they lost all 3, So going back and winning 2 in a row, the only Big Ten to ever do so. It's a feat, no doubt.
It's a feat. So what was it like for you stepping on that field first time? What team was it against? Like, it must have been one of these surreal moments.
Again, that was Shoebox. So here we are. We're going to play Western Michigan, I think it was. And shoebox came down where that was a night game. So we were due to start that game at 7:00 at night, 7:30, whatever it was. I think it was about 4:00 in the afternoon. They had a meeting and said, NCAA's come down with the decision and this list is suspended for this game. So you got 4 games and you got three games you're suspended, and you have 4 games to serve the suspension. So it was a matter of which 3 games you wanted to serve that suspension. So here we are, 3-4 hours before the first game, and you're expecting to start your first game ever, and now you're suspended and you can't play for the next three weeks. So it was heartbreaking. But by the time we got on the field, I think my first game was against Northwestern. So with the shuffle that we had to make with the suspensions, everything, they moved Dave Costa to left tackle. And Cousin Al was starting at center. And then Brian Lamont and I were starting at right tackle for that game. So, it was an eye-opening moment, especially being your first Big Ten game and your first start. It was an eye-opening moment.
Wait, dude, that is your first potential starting experience is the shoebox. Yes. It's a 7 p.m. and the shoebox came down and said, hey, guys, you're suspended for game 1?
You're suspended for first of the year, yeah.
Man, that's ruthless.
It was ruthless.
Oh, goodness, I didn't know that. Oh, man. All right, so Northwestern, and now you're splitting time with Big Country, who is he can't be bigger than you.
He's bigger than me, yeah. So Brian is 6'8". He was probably 330 at the time. But yeah, he was big boy.
My dad used to say when I used to run into the huddle, he's like, I used to be able to find you on the field everywhere. And then until you went to Wisconsin, I couldn't find you anywhere on that field. Because it was all these big monsters. And then you could see AD was even smaller. Like he was some of the
5'8", 5'7".
Probably 5'8" if on a good day.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. So you mentioned now a bunch. What was it like playing with your cousin?
It was great. Worked with the person all throughout high school, and he was my guard in high school. I was a tackle. Then you go to Wisconsin together, and we were roommates our freshman year, and roommates are basically all throughout college. It was great. Just somebody to put lay an ear next to you and put eyes on something and be candid with.
I mean, I just have so many questions. Matt Perkins, do you have any questions? Because I have a million more.
Just go, Bernie.
Because I have a million more.
Go, man.
All right, so let's just go. I mean, Ben, you played in. I think you played at the beginning of at the pinnacle of Wisconsin football, right? Like Rose Bowl years, Ron Dane, like some of the best players to ever play on the field. And then the shoebox happened and kind of set us back a little bit. But then, you had classes that you played with. I just watched 2001 Penn State, 2002, which we lost, sadly. But, you played with Brandon Williams. Like, you played with the guys that then kept this alive and built this thing back up.
But I think it was your class, right? Yeah. I mean, that was your class. Brandon what was your class? Or?
He was the class after, but I redshirted. So when he came, he started playing immediately. So it gets a little kind of confusing there. But you played with Mike Bennett, Ron Dane, Mike Bennett, AD, Brooks. I mean, you're talking about Lee Evans. I mean, I can name. You said John Favreau. Like some of these guys are my favorite Badgers. Doring, like dudes that were like the epitome of Wisconsin football.
Right.
And then we had this. I think the blip was the shoebox thing. It just hurt people to have to sit games, right? Like, and you can't win when your best guys.
I hurt recruiting as well, but I think we lost a couple of guys in recruiting with the class after, and obviously nobody wants to come to a program that's kind of marked. But I think in the end that your class, the class after you, really took that mentality that our class tried to go forward, that we learned from McIntosh and all those previous Badgers, that, hey, we're going to be a physical team and we're going to come out and we're going to punch you in the mouth every game. And this is a mentality you need to take and go forward with. And I think you guys took it back to that style.
Yeah, I think you summed that up because we finished being very successful. We never won a Big Ten, and we never went to the Rose Bowl, but we were very successful with wins. And I think Barry's, legacy. And I would agree with you. I think the culture, the physicality, like you showed up. I was not good when I showed up, but all I knew is if I could be physical with people, these guys will respect me on some level. And I think that's for everybody.
Yeah, which, I think the current team's kind of lacking. I don't want to pick on the current team because I know what kind of stuff they go through. So, but I think we kind of lost a little bit of physicality in the current team. We need to go back to, hey, this is Wisconsin. We're going to beat you up every play, and you're going to come out of here, and you're going to come out with a bunch of bruises because we're going to give them to you, And I think they're kind of lacking that right now. It's something back in the day that any team that came and played us, they were going to have a tough week the next week because they were pretty beat up,
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead,
Matt, you want to ask a question so badly. Go for it.
I just want to know, is that purely mindset? Is it anything else besides state of mind that can make you play ball?
His training as well, we had the best trainer in the world in JD and John Detman, and it's mindset, it's training, it's knowing that you're going to go the full 9 rounds and 10 rounds, and you're going to come out every time, and you're going to come out swinging, and you're going to play your hardest every play, and that's the Wisconsin mindset.
I mean, it was the game plan. We're going to run power and zone and other counter 100 times in a row, and we're going to do it, or we're not good, or we're going to lose, right. And then throw it a couple times, and they're going to be successful, pass plays. So I'd agree, but you show. Ben, even when I showed up, you look around, and you're like, man, these dudes are like, you guys were big time guys who wanted to be physical and beat people up, and you could see it. And you also knew the guys who didn't want to do it, and you could tell who those guys are. And I don't want to pick on anyone, but some people are not that physical. But a majority of our team, you, Al, Klink, Benning, these guys were physical. They hardly spoke. Al sometimes because he was the center, but just by the way you guys played, it said to everyone else, like, we got to pick it up and we got to be just as bad as these dudes.
Exactly. So we need to pick it up in the weight room. We need to pick it up on the field. We need to play smash mouth physical football. And, we got, like I said, we got that from the classes before us. We learned that from the classes before us, and we try to install that in the younger classes. And I think you guys did the same thing. You tried to instill in the younger classes. And that's why I think, Paul Christ had some good careers and some good years in there, I should say. It's because that mentality still was with Paul Christ, and he knew how to instill that mentality within those teams.
So Ben,
and went through Bielema, came down from Alabama through Bielema and kept going forward. So
I would totally agree. That's why we've been successful for decades. Yes. Ben, you look around when you were there, who are some of like the guys who you're like, wow, these are like some of the best players? Like, as you reflect now, I guess when you're there, it's just kind of normal, but
if I reflect back, I was really in awe, like Donnell Thompson. Like Donnell was crazy, because Donnell would like run with his knees bent, kind of thing. He was just he could move on a dime, and he kind of ran like Barry Sanders. Like Barry Sanders could run with his knees bent all the time, and he cut on a dime, and that's like Donnell could do that all the time, and. He really amazed me as far as his athletic ability, and he was another great leader on the defense, and really took it to heart of this is how the Badgers play, and this is how I'm going to play and show you guys how to play.
I love that. I love Donnell.
Yeah, me too.
Just a hard-hitting dude. I mean, that's really us. It's funny because even Bryson was a hard-hitting guy, a little smaller, but.
So Bryson came in as a safety, and he got to Wisconsin and got on the JD program, and just like all of us, he puts on a little weight, and then they moved him to linebacker. I think he would have been a great safety if they could have kept him back there, but I think he would have been one of the best. But same thing. Bryson could lay the wood, that's for sure.
So he could lay the wood. So I have one story, but I'm going to save it for the very end because it's another one of my favorite Ben Johnson stories.
Sure.
So Ben, your career ends at Wisconsin.
Yep.
It's exciting times. What's it like preparing for the draft? What's it like day of the draft? I mean, you said you came from like humble, beginnings. What's that kind of all mean to you?
Yeah, so I was coming out of the draft, coming on my last year. I think I was projected to mid to late round, and so the first day was about as slow as I get. It was a two day thing at the time, Saturday, Sunday, and then the first day was about as slow as it got, and started getting calls, midday on Saturday, and then with the seventh round, the Lions, I should say that. So being a Packer fan. Packers called me up in the sixth round, in the late sixth round pick, and the offensive line coach at the time, Larry Bechtel, called me up and said, "Hey, Ben, with the next pick, if you're still around, we're going to pick you." Well, being a Packer fan, I was 30 minutes north. I was at my hometown, ecstatic, beyond belief. My whole family celebrating and watching ESPN, and the pick goes by, and then they pick the tackle out of Notre Dame instead. And I think it was about 5 picks later in the seventh round, the Lions called me up and said, "Hey, Ben, we're going to pick you with our pick." And the same thing, still ecstatic, but being a Packer fan growing up, it was kind of hard to swallow. So that will never make me a Packer fan again. I'll never root for those guys. As you can see, I'm rooting for my Lions in the playoffs. And Bernie, you played for the Lions too, so it's one of those things that it was a long day. It was a long draft period, but I think I went to the right place. Unfortunately, NFL just didn't work out for me. Had some knee injuries and kind of jumped around from team to team. Had both Lions, Bears, Panthers, and ended up with the Chargers. So wish it would have gone a little better, but that's just life. You deal with what comes at you.
But you also played NFL Europe.
I did. So
what was that experience?
It's different. You only get 20,000 to the game. It's playing probably like playing a D2 or D3 college. It was kind of what it's playing like. But they get some good fans like in the Rhine Fire or the Frankfurt Galaxy. They had 45,000 people there. But it was an experience. So you got to experience a whole new country, and you were there for 10 weeks and 11 weeks and got to deal with or work with the people there, and got to learn a little German. My first year I was in Amsterdam, so that was a heck of an experience being in Amsterdam. All the buildings that you look at are built in the 1300s, 1400s, and there's nothing in the United States that was built before the 16, 1700s. So it was just a really cool experience. I was glad I did it.
So Ben, let me tell you about one of my other favorite Ben Johnson stories. Outside of scoring a touchdown right off of your butt, if anyone wants to go back and find Fresno State 2002 opening night, I think it was the first time I touched the ball, maybe the second time. We ran a 30 zone, and Ben down blocked and boom, cut right off his tush, right in the end zone. I'll never forget that. I think I scored 1 or 2 over you, which was bad. I mean, I was so fantastic. I never thought I'd score a touchdown in college, and let alone the first night. So that's not the actual story. Although Ben, I appreciate your blocking for that.
I think it was more Dan than me. So
what'd you say?
I think it was probably more Dan than me, but you never know.
No, so I know it was you. I believe that you can't miss the 6'6" torso of 164 Ben Johnson. So you and I took a class when I was a freshman together. I think you showed up twice.
I'm
not trying to put you on the spot.
I wasn't a great student. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna tell anybody. I wasn't a great student. I went to Wisconsin to play football. In the end, I ended up graduating with a sociology major. So I did finish. I wasn't the best student, but
No, I'm not saying you weren't a good student. This is my favorite part of this story, is that it was atmospheric and oceanic 100. You were in a freshman class. Yeah. Let's just say Ben Johnson's not a little person. He stuck out like a sore thumb. It was in a huge hall, like a block away from Camp Randall, in the atmospheric and oceanic building, or the weather building, or whatever building it's called, with the globe on top. And so I look back on the first day and I'm like, oh, Ben's in this class. This is great. We can study together. Like I'm brand new at this place. So I go and we go back to the locker room, and I'm talking. I'm like, hey, Ben, we're in the same class. You're like, man, I don't know. It seems like I might not go back to that class anymore. I'm like, well, "Oh, you gonna drop it?" That's it. He's like, "No, I'm not gonna drop it." He's like, how about this? When you do the homework, just put my name on it, or just copy it for me too. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Listen, I got no shame either saying it.
You're gonna have to go with your story. I have no record of this ever happening.
No, but that's fine. So the best is I go and meet the professor. I always used to say hi to him. So I went down, and because I was at this point making two homeworks and putting your name on one of them. So I went down and I was like, "Hey, professor, I'm in this class with Ben Johnson. He's a teammate of mine. We study together. Can I, we're handing in 2 different homeworks, but that seems like a lot of, you have to look at 2. They're the same exact answers because we're doing it with a tutor together."
Right.
I sold this hard. I was like, "Yeah, we're killing trees. Is there any way I could just put both our names on the top and hand it in?" And she was like, "Yeah, no problem." I was like, "Oh, it was a class of 200 people. She didn't care." I was like, "Man, this is great." So
it was an entry level course too, so she was there for the money. Let's just be serious.
You did come. I mean, you passed the class. You took the test and passed them. So
it seems to get degrees there.
Hey, also in your last year, I was a senior too, taking entry level classes. Why? Why be here? What's the?
You're finishing. Yeah, you're filling requirements, and it's like, why am I even doing this? So, my senior year, I took classes. I enrolled. I didn't go to a single class that whole semester. I'm not gonna lie. I took 0.0 my senior year, my first semester, my senior year, and prepared for. I wanted to concentrate on the season. I knew I wanted to go to the NFL, and I wanted to prepare for the NFL. So, it's nice that you can do that, but it put me in a big hole when I went back. So I had to go back, and I had to finish. I had to probably do an extra 8 or 10 credits to make up for that terrible GPA in my senior year. So
atmospheric and oceanic 100 though. You got those credits, kid. I know you got those credits. I didn't mean to open up a bad thing, but I just was like, man, these experiences you live with forever. They're just funny stories you never forget. The shoebox one, just literally seeing you for the first time, holy hell, I'm in Wisconsin, man. These things I don't ever want to forget. That was one of my most favorite because I don't know. And also I was so proud to do it for you. You were my guy. So that makes me an accomplice or whatever, but I was so excited to be I'm so excited that I can do this for Ben Johnson. And that makes no sense to other people. But until you wear the Motion W and you sit in the locker room, everyone would do the same thing for everybody.
Yeah, did the same thing. So yeah, if you would have been a senior and I'd have been a freshman, I'd have done it for you, man.
I think that's the perfect place for us to wrap up here today on Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by BetOnline.ag and Oak Ridge Wealth Management. Ben, we really appreciate you taking the time and sharing the stories with us here today. This has been an absolute pleasure. Make sure to do the usual stuff like subscribe, rate, review, etc. Wherever you are. We'll be back again later this week with more interviews, more Badgers, and more of us. Love us or hate us. So again, appreciate everyone tuning in. And until next time, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Go Lions.
Hey, go Lions, man. I was before Bielema, so I can't give those without W, man. That's not me.